Bob, you've written what? Like
12 books.
12 books.
12
and
books.
like and a bunch of them are New York Times.
Number one New York Times bestsellers.
Bestsellers.
5 of them had hit the New York Times list. Yeah, but...
I mean, some people might call that having magic in a bottle. Like, what's your secret?
You know, the first time I didn't realize that was going to happen. I just thought I would just sell the book and make a little bit of money. But then it hit number one, and it's just took off like a rocket.
Yeah.
How to buy real estate with little or no money down. And everybody wanted to know that. So that just kind of launched my career, and I've become an author ever since. I do invest in real estate, but I like to write. Frankly, I like to write. Yeah, because people will send me their success stories. And I'll say, I read this book, and it changed my life. And frankly, that feels good. My tenants, they never say that to me. You know, a tenant never says, you changed my life. You know, but a book reader does. I had a lady come up to me in Singapore, believe it or not, and she said, your book, Nothing Down, changed my life. And I said, oh, really? What did you like about the book? She said, I actually never read it. But the title, How to Buy Real Estate with Little or No Money Down, I said, I can do that. And so she went off and made $1 million reading the cover of the book, believe it or not. I have a picture of her and me, and she never read the book. So sometimes it's just planting the idea to get them started.
Just imagine, though, how much she would have made if she read the book. I mean, if just reading the title got her $1 million.
Yeah, she could have made multi-millions if she actually read it.
Right. So are your books like your kids? Is it tough to have a favorite, or do you have a favorite?
No, I have a favorite. I absolutely have a favorite. It took me about 2 years to write. When I did a challenge with Nothing Down, I said, send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me a $100 bill, and in 72 hours I buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. That was to prove my book, Nothing Down. But then I did it. I bought 7 properties in 57 hours.
Yeah.
And then that made me kind of famous for that one challenge. But the other people, when I go on the media, they would say, well, you could do it, Robert, but the ordinary person couldn't do it. And I said, well, send me to any city and take away my wallet and let me teach somebody how I go to a city and select somebody who is broke, out of work, and discouraged. And 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth. In 90 days, they're back on their feet with $5,000 cash in the bank, never to set foot in an unemployment line again. And so to prove that, I went to the center of the country, which is Missouri. And Missouri has on the license plates, the Show Me State. In other words, don't tell me, Robert, show me. So we selected some people from the unemployment line, and I taught them in 2 days, and 90 days later, walked away with $5,000 in cash, with no cash, no job, no credit, no nothing, but a little bit of knowledge. And it took me 2 years to write that story of what did I teach them, and then what did they do? How did they do it? And I sent the manuscript off to my publisher, and it was like 1,000 pages long, and they sent it back to me and said, cut this in half. And I literally had to cut out, like my babies, cut out all these words. It's the hardest book I ever wrote, but it's the best book because it tells the story of how somebody really did it. Most books you read about it, the author says, do this, don't do that. But this is what I taught them, and this is what they did. So the challenge is a book I want to give to everybody. I want to give it around to everybody in the world, and those people who are watching, right now, I want them to have a copy of it. I want them to read it.
Yeah.
This happened a few years ago, this challenge, but the updated version of it is actually my thoughts on now later, as we look at it a decade or so later. I go, this is what I should have taught them, and this is what they did with what I taught them, and this is the ahas I got as an author. And so it's kind of like a brand new book that I think everybody would love. And when they click on the link today in our podcast, they get it.
Yeah, for sure. I think there's a copy of it here. Yes, The Challenge.
Isn't that the worst subtitle you've ever seen in your life?
That's the longest subtitle. But hey, if you're going to change lives with just the cover of your book, you might as well put some prose on it.
Exactly.
No, I mean, if people head on over to uplife.com/the challenge, I think you're giving this away for free.
I want them
right
to have
now.
it as my
gift.
gift.
Just cover the cost of shipping and handling, and they can have the book for free.
Yep.
So that's an amazing gift.
I guarantee they'll learn something in that book they've never thought of before. That might be the one thing they need to kind of transform themselves to the next level of wealth. So,
Well, and that's kind of a good segue into what you had mentioned you wanted to talk about today, Bob. This mentality of people feeling like they have to go it alone. How much of your approach to this challenge and getting people to go from nothing to, $5,000 in the bank in a matter of weeks, how much of that comes down to finding people and partnering with people?
Yeah. Well, why do we think we need to go it alone? Usually
everybody does.
They
it's
do.
Just like
they
we
do.
want to bootstrap
because
it.
entrepreneurs are independent minded. And that means they think independently and they like to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They want to say, I did this. It's kind of an ego thing. And ultimately, that's stupid. You really have to have people who can see your blind spots. And frankly, you need people who have resources that you don't have. So one of the ways I got started myself was I joined a club that was in my city. It was called the Executive Club, and they had a doctor and they had a dentist and they had an accountant. I was the real estate guy.
Right.
And frankly, I was investing in real estate, but you run out of money before you run out of good deals. And if you want to do a bigger deal, you need to have bigger financial statements. So I would go to this club and I would tell people about deals I was doing. And there would be a dentist, for instance, and he'd say, well, if you find a deal like that, Bob, bring it on, And now I could use his resources. That's called OPE, other people's resources. So now I can go up a level. I can go bigger, right? So I found in this group the relationships I built when I did well with one person and I found a property that we could turn around and flip, make some quick cash for them, that they talked to their friends. And their friends would come to me and say, I want you to do one for me like that, And so at the beginning of my career, I was the bird dog. And there are bird dogs and angels, that's the way I describe it. A bird dog is a person who finds the deals. And most people don't look for deals because they look at their financial resources and they go, I couldn't afford that. I couldn't buy that. I couldn't qualify for that. So I don't have the down payment for that.
Lone wolf mentality.
Totally. Wrong thinking. You pretend like you have all of those resources, and then you go looking as if you do. And when you find them, then you have to do the second finding. First you find the deal, then you tie it up, and then you find the partner who you partner with, and so they have other resources that you don't have. For example, give me a quick example on this. So I found a property that was owned by a church, and it had been given as tithing. And it was a beautiful property, absolutely gorgeous, with apartment buildings all around it and cows in the middle, because it had been that way forever, and then the apartments had been built up around it. And so I found this property, and the guy says, we need some money to tie this up, and if you'd like it, you give us this money. And we need $5,000 to tie it up, and we'll give you an option. I didn't even know what an option was. And he says, give me an option, and I'll give you this property, and I want $250,000 for it. So when the year is up, you're going to be $5,000 now, and a year from now, you give me $200,000, and we make the money, and you make the profit. Well, I didn't have $5,000. I didn't have it, but I belonged to this club,
Oh, yeah.
I belonged to this club. So I remember the day. I actually went to sit down, and I got the option to buy this property. I said, give me a few days to pull the money together. I literally signed the contract, the option to be able to buy this property, and I said, $250, $275, that's too much. Let's make it $200. So, okay, give me $5,000, and you can have an option for $200,000. I went to the dentist in the group and I said, I need $5,000 and this is going to be some serious money in here. And he said, well, tell you the truth, I just got started. I don't have the $5,000 myself, but I have a bank relationship and I can borrow the $5,000. So although he didn't have the money, so we borrowed the $5,000.
Using his credit.
And I write it down. He has his credit, exactly. And we tie the property up. Now, it took 10 months to kind of figure out how to make this thing look good to the builders, et cetera. And we finally flipped it. We finally sold that option to a builder for $275,000. That means there was $75,000 in profit. And how much of my money did I put into it?
Zero.
Remember, zero, none of mine. I guaranteed that the dentist would do well. We tripled his money. And since it wasn't his money, it was actually the bank's money, and his interest probably would have been $1,000 at the most. He earns $15,000 on a $1,000 investment. What's the rate of return on that? It's 15 times his money, and therefore I had a partner that I had brought in to help me figure this out. Had to split my profits with them. I walked away with $30,000, and my other partner walked away with $30,000. The dentist walked away with $15,000. But it all started because I was looking for deals, and when you find a deal, let me tell you what you do. This is the answer.
Okay.
Find a great deal, say yes, and figure it out. Most people, they find a good deal and they go, say no, because they can't qualify. You find a good deal, you have to say yes. And then you figure out how I put together the resources to make that happen. And most people don't think that way. They look at themselves independently. They go, could I qualify? No. See a good deal, they're so rare. You don't have time to think. Somebody has a good deal and you know it's a good deal, say yes. Figure it out. And you'll find a relationship, somebody you know. Everybody knows about 100 successful people in their life. There's you, and about 100 relationships you have in your life. Those people also have 100 relationships that they know. Therefore, your 100 people, I can guarantee you that one of the 100 people that you already know has the resources that you're looking for, whether it's cash, credit, cash flow, collateral. They got the resources. And if they don't, then if you keep communicating with them, they have the resources that if they don't have it, like my dentist, he didn't have the resources I was looking for, but he knew somebody who had the resources that he could borrow. So if you know 100 and your 100 knows 100, that's 10,000. No, actually, yeah, that's 10,000 people. The third ring out is 100 times 100. That's 1,000,000 people within 3 phone calls of the people you know. 100 times 100 times 100, 1,000,000 from just the first 100 you know. So you're partnering. You have to make the decision. I want to help other people create wealth in their life too. See, usually people, when they think about, I'm going to borrow somebody's money, it's like I have to ask, I have to beg them for their resources. And, please, you got to help me out. Please, please, beg, 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 beg. Do not beg, ever. You're going to come up with an opportunity. Remember, money is attracted to great deals. Therefore, you got a great deal and you've tied it up. You don't beg for the money. You give them the opportunity to partner with you. And most people come from the total, because they don't have a lot of financial resources themselves.
It's a posture.
Then they are begging, please provide this resource for me. Please, 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 please. That didn't work in high school, begging, and that doesn't work today. So we bring the deal and we say, would you like a piece of this deal? If you don't, I have 30 other people in this club I belong to, that was my case, that if you don't want it, they'll want it. And now we create
competition.
Yeah, we create some competition. We create a little fighting for it. Since you only have one deal and there are 30 people that want it, therefore the money comes out of the woodwork when you got a great deal. And most people are not bird dogs. A bird dog is somebody who finds deals. You don't have to have money to find bird dogs or find deals. Do I have to have, does my wife need money when she walks up to Tiffany's and looks at the diamonds in Tiffany's? She could afford it, but, she's just shopping. So that's what you're doing in real estate. You're just shopping. And you're going to talk to a real estate agent, and the real estate agent is probably going to say something like this. Could you qualify for me to find you a deal like that? And this is your answer. I have enough money to buy a property at the right price. And that's all you say. You don't tell them anything about your credit, your cash flow, your collateral, whatever.
Because if you're going to be resourceful,
totally.
You can buy the right
exactly.
property at
That's
the
what
right
Tony
price.
Robbins says. If you don't have the resources, you got to be resourceful. Exactly. That's great Tony Robbins line. So you're resourceful. And so your answer is, when somebody tries to qualify you, I've got enough money to buy the right property at the right price. And if they want to go, well, show me your credit rating, you say, I've got enough credit to buy the right property at the right price. They show me your financial statement. I've got enough financial statement to buy the right property at the right price. Show me your down payment. I've got enough down payment to buy your property at the right price. You don't have to tell anybody about your financial circumstances. Then when you have the right deal, and you show that to people with money, money is attracted to great deals, then they go, I want that deal. I want that deal. Like a property I found, fantastic property, and I couldn't qualify for the mortgage to get it, beginning of my career. But it was a fabulous property. And I knew it was a fantastic location, excellent condition, right, everything was right. I just couldn't afford the down payment, the qualifying for the loan. The two partners were fighting that day, and they said, we got to get rid of this. And I said, what's your price? And they named a price that I knew was low. And so I said, yes. I said, I'd like to buy your property at your price. It'll take me a few weeks to pull together the finances. Here's $500 to tie it up. What price you want? Let's do it. Set it 7 weeks from now. We close. Now I have the contract. Now I go find the resources. Mm-hmm. I found somebody who wanted a proper building like that. And he was looking, had the cash, had the credit, cash flow, collateral. I didn't. I said, here's the deal. Would you like it? Now, in that case, I flipped it to him, and I only made $7,000. I did it in 7 weeks. I invested $500 of oil money, which they never cashed. So essentially, I never invested any of my own money. And I walked away with $7,000 7 weeks later. Now that was...
They just wanted the security of knowing
totally.
that it was...
They just wanted to know it had been sold. And so all these little tricks, you may have heard some of this stuff before, people watching, and they go, how do I do that? How can I pull that off? Frankly, you have to overcome your fear. Your fear is expensive. It costs you... Just think about, let's go back 5 years and ask yourself, what if you eliminated your fear? And you no longer were afraid of making a fool of yourself or making a mistake or losing some money. This is usually the things that people are afraid of. What if you dropped that fear 5 years ago? Where would you be today? What would your net worth be today? An extra million? Probably, because you would have taken action. You would have gone outside your comfort zone into the opportunity zone. Uh-huh. And the comfort zone is where you are afraid to stay inside this little place where I'm comfortable. All the opportunity is outside that comfort zone. Everything you've ever wanted is about that far outside your comfort zone. So if you were willing to go out and get the opportunity because you dropped the fear, you'd be $1 million richer today. Well, let's take that 5 years from now in the future. You hang on to that fear, 5 years from now, guess what? You'll lose another $1 million. Yeah. And take the $1 million you lost in the future because you had a fear, and add it to the $1 million you already lost. It was real money you lost. Take those $2 million and put them in a pile in the middle of your driveway and pour some kerosene on it and burn it up, because that's what you'll do. That's the cost of fear. Yeah. It's $2 million, a minimum. And we can't do that. That's silly. That's stupid. But people, because they live with fear every day, they never really understand the cost of having a fear. And they say, well, there's no cost to a thought. It's just a thought. No, every thought you think has a consequence. And if you thought of it differently, if you said that every thought you thought had a negative fear thought, that they deducted $100 from your bank account, and you looked at that and actually could hear the slurping sound of the money being sucked out of your bank account for real, you'd probably think differently about the cost of a thought. Well, $100 is actually literally being deducted from your future bank account. And every time you think a negative thought, money's going away from your future. You show up at the empty bank in the future, the vault that could have contained millions of dollars, and there's nothing in there because 1,000 little negative thoughts you thought over your lifetime have added up to nothing. You don't show up with anything in your bank account. It's too expensive. Stop it. Stop it.
So I've got a kind of an unfair question, if you're okay fielding that.
Oh, please. I'm so afraid of you asking me the wrong question.
So if we were to dial back to the beginning of when you were just getting started, and you could keep with you from today either your knowledge or your relationships,
Ooh.
which one would propel you further faster?
Ooh. Boy, that is obviously relationships, obviously.
Yeah? How come obviously for you? Because I think most people would be like, that knowledge is key.
No, because relationships, whatever you don't have, somebody else does. Period. Whatever you don't have, if I don't have it, somebody else does. And if I have a relationship with that somebody and they trust me and I have a good enough opportunity, they'll bring me in as a partner. So everything I've ever wanted, I can get through other people. And get through, meaning, that sounds kind of negative. No, when I bring an opportunity to them, they make money too.
Yeah.
So we both win. It's win-win.
Quid pro quo, for sure.
So yeah, relationships, and I think about my relationships. I have a good relationship with Stephen Covey, the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. One of my teachers in Brigham Young University, profound. That relationship was very important. When I got started, I graduated with an MBA. Don't let that impress you. I graduated in the 1/3 of my class that made the top 2/3 possible. And I was the bottom of my class and couldn't get a job when I graduated. I was kind of embarrassed by that, frankly.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, do I really want a job? No, I really want to become a millionaire. So why don't we just go right straight to that? But the relationship was with a man named Paul. He was in one of my church groups, and he was a multimillionaire. And I went to Paul, and I said, Paul, my dad gave me $1,500 at graduation, and I don't have a job. Do you have anything, project you're working on where I could maybe help you and then kind of rub shoulders with you and you could kind of share with me, a few of the tips and strategies and techniques? And he said, yeah, I've got a project I'm working on, and you can drive with me. It was about an hour away. Every 2 or 3 times a week we'd drive together. And relationships, those relationships. I'd never been asked that question before. Dang, that's a profound question. I'm going to be thinking about that for weeks. Would you want the knowledge or the relationships? Relationships every time. And of course, my favorite relationship is my wife.
Yeah.
We're together 44 years now, and we're together forever. And
where would you be without her?
Oh, well, I tell you what, you have your ups and downs financially, and I'm an entrepreneur. They say an entrepreneur loses about 9 times out of 10 before they finally figure it out. And that's about my ratio. Those 9 times were with her, and she could have left me at any one of those junctures. There was a bankruptcy in there because I had an avalanche that destroyed my mountain cabin, and there was a loan on it, and the bank wouldn't, the insurance company wouldn't pay. Therefore, I had to pay the bank this money, and $1.7 million, and I couldn't. And so it ended up in a bankruptcy that was really nasty. She went through all of that with me, and the reason I love her is because, not for the millions we've made that we have, the beautiful houses we lived in, oh my gosh, the houses we've lived in, and the places we've traveled, it's not for that I love her. It's for when there was nothing left. She said, how can we figure this out? Let's figure it out together. So, yeah, relationships. Ooh, I'm starting to tear up now. Relationships. Yeah.
Critical.
And you don't want to ruin your relationships as you're creating wealth.
Yeah.
Because the biggest deduction from your wealth is when you lose half of it to your spouse. You don't want to do that. You work at it so hard to create it, and then you walk away, and they take away half of it because you didn't build that relationship. Just don't do that. And that's hard. I have a deal with my wife. This is the deal. She said to me, you'll quit at 6, and the weekends are mine, and I'll stay married to you. And, I laugh about it now, but she was pretty strong on that one. She'd go, it's 6. Why are you looking at your phone? Why are you looking at your computer? It's 6 o'clock. That's our time, right? So 44 years later, that's the way we live.
Yeah.
Still do.
I feel like people who know what they want tend to get what they want. So
Yeah.
the fact that she came in so specifically, this is how I need it to work.
Yep.
Expectations are set, and it's very clear.
Yep. Well, she learned that from her parents, and they had a divorce. And she said, I want that to be what happens in my family.
Yeah.
So I can't even look at a picture of her without tearing up. She's beautiful. And
makes your world.
Anyway,
that's so
relationships.
Awesome. Well, in wrapping up today's episode, one final question that I'm sure all of our listeners have on their mind. You had that club that you were part of.
Yeah.
Everyone's going to ask themselves, how do I go out there and make these meaningful relationships?
Yeah.
And how do I do it in a way that doesn't seem self-serving? Like
that's a fundamental question. Self-serving.
Yeah.
Obviously, you need to be a giver. My first mentor was Paul. And Paul, I said to him, do you have a project that you need help on? I didn't come to him and say, please, will you be my mentor? Don't do that. Don't come up and beg somebody to be the mentor. When you come up and say, because they've got projects that are important to them. And therefore, if you come up and say, please be my mentor, you're adding yourself to their to-do list.
Yeah.
The last thing they want is another thing on their to-do list. What they want is things off their to-do list. And therefore, when you come up and say, you got a project I can help you on, then there's reciprocity, and therefore they help. So self-serving is a taking attitude.
Okay.
You have to be a giver. You're a giver mindset. So in my club, I'm a giver. I'm saying, how can I help you make some more money at this? Do you like to invest in real estate? Let me find you a great deal. That kind of thing. Without me expecting the result for my self-serving benefit, but to try to be a giver to them. Now, just like I found a group, I'm going to challenge all of our viewers to find a group like that. So what kind of groups are there? There are church groups. There are charity groups. Suppose you find your favorite charity. Guess what? Probably in your city, there is a chapter of your favorite charity. And who funds that charity? Rich people fund that charity. And guess what? You want to hang with rich people. And so you want to come in and say, how can I help? How can I get on the board? How can I raise some money? And maybe you don't have the money to raise, then go raise it and provide it. And guess what? The people who see you do that, they're going to go, that's the kind of person I want to partner with. Then if you got a deal, you can say, how about this? This might be something you might be interested in. And if they don't have the opportunity or the time for them there, then they know somebody. So that's a group you could join. You could join a group online, people who are investing in real estate. And you could be a giver in that group. And you could say, I'm looking for deals, got the cash. Anybody want to find a deal you could provide for me? I'm looking for a bargain. So there are lots of groups you can form online and offline. What fits your personality where you would feel comfortable? Maybe it would fit your dream or your passion eventually. Join that group and be giver to that group. And eventually, I guarantee you, people in that group are going to see you and they're going to go, hey, yeah, let's partner up. Then you take them out for lunch. So you'd like to find somebody that's in your local area. And most of the time, you have to ask a person maybe 10 times. And most people won't do it. They get the first rejection and they feel, they don't want to have lunch with me. Just keep asking them again, where's your favorite lunch place? It's on me. When can I meet you there? And you take them to lunch. And you literally tell me about the project you're working on. How can I help you? You're a giver first. So this building of relationships is networking. And your network is your net worth. And if you're a loner with no network, that's why you have no net worth. Got to be a networker, and you be a net giver, not a net taker. Net takers, nobody likes a net taker. They'll tell their friends, watch out for that guy, watch out for that gal. They're takers. But you're a giver, they go, hey, good one. Relationship with that gal, with that guy. How did I learn that? I don't know. I honestly, nobody taught me that. It's just, I went to him and I said, have you got a project you're working on? And then as I started to understand that, that's the way I do it with all of my relationships now, to be a giver, not a taker.